Hey everybody, I'm the Drink Pro, and today we're reviewing Aberlour A'bunadh. Hey everybody, Kyle the Drink Pro here with you yet again. Thank you as always for liking this video, commenting your thoughts, and clicking that notification bell and subscribing to the channel. I always appreciate the support. Today we're reviewing another Speyside Scotch. I don't know if you've noticed, but there's kind of a pattern. It's just personal preference. I really enjoy Speyside Scotches. I promise I will do some from other regions in the near future, but Speyside really hits a nice place for bourbon drinkers. And I think this one in particular is going to be a bourbon drinker Scotch. Now, Aberlour A'bunadh has a great story. I'm not sure if it's true or folklore, but I love the story anyway. A'bunadh is Scotch Gaelic for the original. And allegedly in the 70s, when Aberlour was installing two new big pot stills, they found a bottle of 1898 Aberlour. They were able to date this because of the newspaper wrapped around the bottle. Now, Aberlour is not that old of a brand in the grand scheme of things. It was founded in 1879 by James Fleming. So an 1898 bottle would have been some of that original distillate, hence the original. Now, this is not 1898 distillate. This is Aberlour trying to recreate the profile of 1898 Aberlour distillate. There's a couple of fun things about this whiskey. First off, it's barreled at cask strength. That was something that wasn't done for many years after the creation of the Aberlour distillery, partly because of World War I and some regulations that went into place in the UK. But it's also a whiskey that's 100% matured in the butts of Oloroso Sherry. Now, some whiskeys like the Macallan are sort of known for their sherry finishing or their sherry aging, but not a lot of whiskey, frankly, is entirely aged in first fill Oloroso Sherry. That means they took the sherry out and put in the Aberlour. Now, although the A'bunadh does not have an age statement, we know that it's a blend of whiskey between 5 years and 25 years old. So it's getting a lot of different flavors in there, and it is, like I said, barreled at cask strength. It should be a really unique pour. And I've heard from more than one person that this is a great Scotch for bourbon drinkers. I already feel like the Speyside whiskeys typically are good Scotches for bourbon drinkers, partly because of the interesting profile that I get from a lot of Speyside whiskeys, and partly because they're pretty easy drinkers. But this one in particular is supposed to be very, very much in that lane for a bourbon head, so let's see if that's true. Now, while I'm pouring this, I want to note that there are several different batches of A'bunadh out there. This particular one is 60% alcohol. I've heard there's a lot of variation between the batches, and I've also heard there's not that much. So we'll see what this one tastes like. That's the best I can do. And also I appreciate it from Ken. He's the one that sent me this pour. He is one of the two members, Ken and Josh, on the I Drink and I Know Things podcast. I'll link their YouTube channel in the description. Check it out. Now, although there's no age statement, the Aberlours are batch numbered. So if you know you like a particular batch, the proof and the batch number will help you get there. I don't know what the batch number is on this, unfortunately, but I may have to ask Ken in the future. I should also mention that besides being barrel proof and being batched, this whiskey is non-chill filtered and it has no color added. I think that's worth noting because this is a relatively dark whiskey. You know, it's got that nice, obvious Oloroso Sherry color. We'll see if it has the flavor of sherry, but it certainly has more color than your average Scotch that isn't being, added with more color. There's a better way to say that, but forget about it.
Hey, Bully, you got a 1-inch pecker, and Bully says, forget about it.
Forget about it.
Wow, that nose really screams Oloroso Sherry. It's got really distinct, like deep candied fruit, grape notes. It's got a really nice baking spice, which I think is sort of the marrying of the bourbon world in this. It's got vanilla, it's got caramel, it's got definite caramel and brown sugar and cinnamon, but that sherry is very prominent. I mean, it's hard to avoid that deep grape, sweet. I'm getting like plums as well, apricots as well. It is candied fruit to a T. And the more I keep smelling it, the more the baking spice starts to show up, and I think maybe that's the bourbon connection. It's really beautifully cinnamon forward. This has all kinds of fruit in it, peaches and pears and apples and cherries. I already mentioned the plums, the apricots. It is just a fruit bomb on the nose. I think that sherry component is really bringing the fruit. Yeah, the fig and raisins are also there as sweet aromatics. I get a little bit of like oak wood spice, but it's very, very faint. In many ways, this does kind of remind me of a Macallan nose, and Macallan's not always my favorite on the palate either, so I can see the sherry connection for sure. Let's see how it is on the palate. Oh, this is a beautiful whiskey, guys. Wow. I've got thoughts. Let me see if I can get them out. The palate does not disappoint, guys. All those fruits I smelled, I'm tasting on the palate. Right up front, you get tons and tons of fresh fruits, and you get some of those candied fruits and the dried fruits as well. But the sherry influence is not lost. Mid-palate into the finish, that wine note, that almost like bitter grape skins vibe starts to show up. As much as people said this is like a bourbon drinker's scotch, I'm not sure that's true because that sherry finish is a foreign note to a bourbon drinker. Most bourbons, most American whiskeys, frankly, don't have a sherry finish. So that's gonna throw off some bourbon drinkers. Let's get another taste though. See, and there it is. In the mid palate, I get that slight salty brine of a Speyside. Speyside to me always has a classic subtle salty brine, and that turns off a lot of bourbon drinkers. I really like this pour. I think it's beautifully blended of that super sweet candy fruit up front, and then a nice transition into that classic Speyside, almost like sea breeze kind of taste. But then it also comes in with that grape skin, definite like wine component. The sherry component really shows up, but it doesn't stick around too long. The wine component's in the mid palate, and then on the finish, I actually get some of the grape flavor and an oak flavor, like a fresh cut oak flavor, which I didn't expect off of a first fill sherry barrel as the entire finishing process. The oak is a lot more prominent for me on the finish than I'd expect. I think this might be a good introduction whiskey for people that like Scotch and want to learn more about Scotch, because it's gentle, because it's very fruit forward, it has a lot of good things going for it, and you can see each part of the process. You can see the sherry fruit, you can see the oakiness, and you can see the Speyside component. That sea breeze shows up. You know it's a Speyside, citrus and sea breeze in the mid palate. But I am very hesitant to confirm the suspicion from others that this is a bourbon drinker's scotch. I'm not sure I agree, only because there's enough flavors in here that are outside of the norms for bourbon drinkers that might scare them off. Now, I like all different kinds of spirits, all different kinds of whiskeys too, and for me, this is a great Speyside whiskey. I love this. Especially, I can't believe it's an NAS. It's got this kind of color with no added color. That's fantastic. I mean, it's what you want from a very sherried, scotch. And it's what I want from a sherried Speyside for sure. But this isn't gonna be the first scotch a bourbon drinker is gonna try. This is maybe the third or fourth. You gotta give them something that's super entry level into the Scotch world first. Give a bourbon drinker something that has none of that sea breeze, and then show it just a little bit and just a little bit more. The fruit's gonna pull them in, but that sea breeze could scare them off. It's a beautiful Scotch, definitely a Scotch though, definitely a sherried Scotch, and it is what it is, which I kind of like. It knows what it is. It's a sherried Speyside Scotch, and it tastes like it, but it's beautifully balanced. It's gentle on the palate. It's not overpowering in any way. And I kind of like that oaky finish. I don't usually go for big, strong oak flavors, but it's a subtle, fresh oak finish, which I really like. Thanks so much, Ken, for the sample. Check out the I Drink and I Know Things podcast. Like I said, I'll link them in the description. I'm gonna finish this pour up and have a good time. And you know what? If you are a bourbon drinker, give this bottle a shot. I think it's less than $100. If you don't like this pour, send me an email, let me know, and we'll find a way to get rid of that bottle for you. Because I really like this stuff. All right, you guys keep drinking like professionals. Cheers.